Hello, welcome back to the Fandom United podcast, number 17. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy Friday. It's the last Friday before Zack Snyder's Justice League. I can't believe it. Less than a week. It's crazy. And last night I was watching the 2017 Justice League movie, just paying my final respects. Not that that movie deserves it, but yeah, I wanted to revisit it one more time before, that movie's put to rest and erased from existence. Well, at least in our minds, the 2017 movie will always exist. So those of you out there who don't like Zack Snyder and his movies, there's always that movie. But let's get into Zack Snyder's Justice League because we have a huge development in the DCEU. Yeah, it's funny. Warner Brothers doesn't consider Zack Snyder's Justice League canon, yet a late addition to the Flash movie says otherwise. Kiersey Clemons, who plays Iris West in Zack Snyder's Justice League, will reprise her role in the Flash movie, which will begin production next month, April. The actress was cut from the 2017 theatrical version of Justice League before getting put back in once Zack Snyder's Justice League was announced, and will now be in the upcoming Flash movie. Great news. Great news for those of you out there, myself included, who are campaigning Restore the Snyderverse. Interesting timing. A week before Zack Snyder's Justice League releases, there are people who have already seen this movie, screeners. This is good news. It's really good news. But what does it mean in the larger, the larger picture, the bigger picture? Because Warner Brothers doesn't want anything to do with the Snyderverse. But they have no problem taking his Aquaman, taking Wonder Woman, Batman, Flash, Mira, and now Iris West. This gives me hope that such a thing, Restore the Snyderverse, is very possible. And I haven't even seen the movie yet. A lot of us haven't even seen the movie yet. So for them to get her back tells me that somebody or a couple people saw Zack Snyder's Justice League. A couple people from Warner Brothers saw Zack Snyder's Justice League and were probably thinking, yeah, this movie's a lot better than that 2017 movie. And this is going to be a hit. I'm not saying it's going to be a hit, but I'm reading the terrain, the early word, the buzz, the hashtags, the news. It's going to get a lot more interesting in the next week, in the coming weeks. Can't wait. Exciting. You know what else is exciting? The fact that we're getting Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke in Zack Snyder's Justice League. The actor appeared on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast from MTV and opened up about everything Deathstroke. From the first time he was on set to a treatment that he wrote for a solo movie involving the director of The Raid, Gareth Evans, to possible experiences in Suicide Squad and returning for Zack Snyder's Justice League additional photography. We're going to go through all of it right now. So let's start with the beginning in this podcast interview that Joe Manganiello did, where he talked about the Justice League cast geeking out to see him for the first time in his full getup. and it goes as follows. 5 years ago, Joe Manganiello found himself on the London set of Justice League, dressed in armor. Actors such as Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, and Ezra Miller crowded around a monitor to catch a glimpse of test footage of Manganiello in action as Deathstroke, the villain he would be playing in the planned The Batman movie from director and star Ben Affleck. Not long after, Manganiello jetted off to Monaco to film a Justice League post-credits scene on a yacht with Lex Luthor, played by Jesse Eisenberg, a moment that was supposed to set him up as the villain for Affleck's The Batman. And later in the interview, Manganiello says, 6 months later, I got the notification that Batman wasn't going to happen. Bummer. But how cool is it that the Justice League cast, that's how close they were, at least when Snyder was under the on the director's chair. They gathered on a monitor screen and geeked out to see Joe Manganiello in the full Deathstroke costume. Remember that leaked footage? Yeah, that was from Ben Affleck on the set. Everyone gathered to see him as Deathstroke. And it was supposed to lead to a Batman solo movie from Ben Affleck where Deathstroke was going to be the villain. If you've seen my video that I did, the 5 things I'm looking forward to in Zack Snyder's Justice League, one of them was Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke and how he described his character being like a shark or a horror movie villain in the Batman solo movie. So as a fan of these characters and a fan of these actors and actresses playing these characters, it's really cool to see or to hear them that they geeked out on set. I mean, that's what you want in these performers playing these characters. So that was fun. But yeah, in the podcast, he talked about writing his own treatment for an origin story and getting a big name in the indie world of filmmaking on board. And it goes as follows. He, Joe Manganiello, wrote his own treatment for an origin story movie, and after a 2-hour Skype meeting, convinced the Raid filmmaker Gareth Evans to sign on, despite the director not being studio movie kind of guy. For anybody who's seen The Raid and The Raid 2, getting Gareth Evans, who he considers himself not really a studio movie kind of guy, getting him on board for a Deathstroke solo movie is a huge W. I mean, that's a no-brainer if you've seen the Raid movies. Those movies are considered some of the best action movies ever made. The fight choreography, if you think Captain America the Winter Soldier is impressive, that John Wick is impressive, and they both are, but they don't stand up next to the Raid and the Raid 2. They don't. And it hurts for me to say that as a Captain America the Winter Soldier huge fan of that movie. Those movies aren't like The Raid and The Raid 2. So that's a no-brainer, right? That's a no-brainer for Warner Brothers. Okay, you have an actor who wants to play Deathstroke, wrote a treatment, convinced an indie guy, Gareth Evans, to direct it. No problem, right? Wrong. When the dust settled, it was not seen as a priority to make a $40 million movie about a villain origin story in which you show the backstory, said Manganiello. So let me get this straight, Warner Brothers. The same studio that greenlit a Joker R-rated movie that made $1 billion at the box office and won Oscars. A Deathstroke movie is not a priority. Fucking idiots. They really have no idea what they were doing. And it pisses me off because around that time, I was still a defender of Warner Brothers. I was. I admit it, but here they are. And yes, the irony is the one R-rated movie that they did greenlight, in as far as their DC properties go, made $1 billion. You think now they'd make a Deathstroke movie? We'll talk about that shortly. But since Warner Brothers wasn't interested in a Deathstroke solo movie, and of course a Batman solo movie that never happened, starring and directed by Ben Affleck, maybe there was other ways for Deathstroke to appear in the DCEU, and that was in the form of a Suicide Squad sequel from David Ayer, and it continues. Manganiello had more flirtations with Deathstroke after that. Before James Gunn boarded to direct this August The Suicide Squad, Manganiello was also in the mix for a sequel to David Ayer's 2016 Suicide Squad. There were 4 or 5 different versions of Suicide Squad 2 that I was put on hold for dates, waiting for one actor to free up, and we were going to go. Of course, we know now that David Ayer never got to make his Suicide Squad 2. James Gunn came in and is giving us a very promising, highly anticipated R-rated The Suicide Squad. But man, Joe Manganiello at this point, his enthusiasm for Deathstroke had to have been killed. I mean, from everything we just talked about, now he's not. It, to hear that a Suicide Squad sequel is happening with James Gunn and that your character, there was no interest in him appearing, man, that's good. How did Zack Snyder convince him to come back for additional photography? Well, Joe Manganiello talks about that and his new hairdo that we see in these images, and it goes as follows. In the end of the film, I always envisioned him shaving his head into some kind of warlike, borderline suicide mission. This is it. I'm going to die like a warrior, said the actor, making an electric razor sound. I explained that to Zach, and he said, great, let's do it. And as far as where this new footage from Deathstroke could lead to, he says, I think there's going to be excitement over continuing what Zach was up to. And he leaves it at that. See, man, there's something about Zack Snyder and getting his actors excited to play these roles and being open to what they want to bring to these characters, like Joe Manganiello wanting to shave his head, some kind of warlike border suicide mission, and Zack Snyder's saying, "Hey, great, let's do it." And now you start to see how Zack is able to get these performances out of these actors. Think about Jackie Earle Haley as Rorschach, Jeffrey Dean Morgan as a comedian, Michael Shannon as General Zod, Ben Affleck as Batman. Going back to his early movies, Gerard Butler as King Leonidas. You think about all these actors who have worked for Zack Snyder and the performances that they gave. It's some of the best performances that they gave in their careers. And so I am so looking forward to seeing Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke, a performance that we probably have yet to see from Joe. And could it lead to a Deathstroke solo movie finally happening on a $40 million budget? How does that not happen on HBO Max? I'm sure Gareth Evans is still interested. Never say never. Anything is possible. Restore the Snyderverse. We'll see what happens in 1 week and in the weeks that follow. as frustrating as this article is to hear all these ideas and things that never happened, there is still hope. It's not too late, but we'll wait and see. It's exciting. All right, let's move on to a segment I call In Other News, which is news in Hollywood outside of the DCEU that I find interesting. I got two stories here. One of them really, really pulls on the heartstrings, and it focuses on Ryan Coogler and him moving forward with Black Panther II without Chadwick Boseman. He had this to say in a recent interview. One thing that I've learned in my short or long time on this earth, however you want to look at it, is that it's very difficult to have perspective on something while you're going through it. And this is one of the more profound things I've ever gone through in my life. Having to be a part of keeping this project going without this particular person who was like the glue that held it together. That said, you've got a professional life, a personal life, and when you work on something that you love, those things blend. Your life kind of becomes your work for part of it. This is without question the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my professional life. Without question, this one hurts. But it's also incredibly motivating. When you look back on how this guy, he's talking about Chadwick Boseman, lived his life and how he moved through this world and what he gave to us. You know, I can just only, it's like losing a family member for Ryan Coogler when he found out about Chadwick Boseman's um, passing. And you can hear just by reading, I mean, hearing me read, but me hearing or reading these words that he spoke, just how much pain and, just the emotional weight of a passing and having to continue to move forward and the the motivation aspect, you know, seeing Chadwick Boseman give these incredible performances and us not knowing, having the slightest clue before his passing that he was not well. I mean, that is so inspirational. And Ryan Coogler and the cast are choosing to look at that as fuel, as inspiration to make Black Panther 2 the absolute best it can be to honor Chadwick Boseman. I don't know how he's going to do it. He obviously didn't hint. We know that the role will not be reprised, T'Challa, nor will there be any kind of CGI stand-in replacements. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they continue this. Um, Chadwick Boseman's passing is one that still hits. It still hurts, and yeah, they hopefully they know that everyone is supporting and with them and has the utmost confidence that they'll do the best thing for the story, for the character, for the world of Wakanda. And so looking forward to that. Let me know what you guys think. Let's move on to the second story that I have. And it reveals that Michael B. Jordan will be directing Creed 3 and what he has to say about that. Directing has always been an inspiration, but the timing had to be right, said Jordan in a statement. Creed 3 is that moment, a time in my life where I've grown more sure of who I am, holding agency in my own story, maturing personally, growing professionally, and learning from the greats like Ryan Coogler, most recently Denzel Washington, and other top tier directors as I respect, all of which sets the table for this moment. This franchise, and in particular the themes of Creed 3, are deeply personal to me. I look forward to sharing the next chapter of Adonis Creed's story with an awesome responsibility of being its director and namesake. MGM has also set a release date of November 23rd, 2022. Next year, okay. So Creed 3 is happening. Who knows where the story goes from here? Um, let's give Michael B. Jordan a shot as a director. He knows his franchise. It was him and Ryan Coogler that pitched the idea to Stallone about doing a Creed movie about the son of Apollo Creed. And so far, this franchise has been a success. MGM has loved the work that they've done on the first two Creeds. Unfortunately, Sylvester Stallone will not be returning. I haven't heard any news that he will reprise his role as Rocky. But if you remember, Sylvester Stallone did a video on his social media informing the crew of Creed 2 that it would be his last time playing the role. So I am interested in that sense of, seeing Adonis Creed move forward without Rocky. Will they kill off the character or will he just quietly retire? Interesting. But as far as Michael B. Jordan directing Creed 3, show us what you got. Am I excited? That's not the word I would use because I haven't seen you direct anything, Michael B. Jordan. But you know the character. You obviously care about the franchise. You got names like Denzel Washington and Ryan Coogler providing you inspiration and support. Let's see where this franchise goes with you as the director. I'm a fan. I want to see more boxing movies. So let's see what you got. But that'll do it for the Phantom United number 17. Thank you so much for joining me. Leave me your thoughts on all the topics. I enjoy the conversation. I appreciate your time and subscriptions. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys have a great weekend, whatever you do. A reminder, later today, a Batman v Superman watch along, Ultimate Edition. If you want to watch the movie, watch it with me and some fellow DC fans and join the conversation. I do appreciate it. Until next time, you guys have a great weekend. Be safe.